Supine adduction with hip thrust level 2. In the supine adduction with hip thrust level 2 exercise, as you can see, it looks very, very similar and is very, very similar to the level 1 supine adduction with hip thrust exercise. In this exercise, you're going to brace against any lip or structure or bar that's stationary, that's stable, that's not dangerous, is going to come towards you. Go ahead and brace your hands underneath that structure. In this case, we're using a power block dumbbell. Patty has her hands firmly underneath the lip of the dumbbell there. And so what that's going to enable you to do is come into that concentric action of this repetition. You're going to be able to brace against the weight, position your torso and thoracic spine nice and firm against the mat, and that'll transfer the kinetic energy down to the lower abs, enabling you to leverage against this very, very stable portion of your body here because of the weight. So because this is stable, you can really leverage against the lower abdominals, transfer that kinetic energy that starts in the hands out through the pelvis, go into a posterior pelvic tilt, and lift the legs up. This looks very similar and is very similar to pike position, lower abdominals level 2 exercise, except for, of course, this action, going into abduction and then adduction. So abduction, adduction. As you start to get about 6 inches away with your feet from each other, that's the point where you'll initiate this hip thrust motion. For fitness doctor practitioners, what you want to do is if your client has a lot of trouble getting into this hip thrust action, because in the in supine adduction with hip thrust level 1, you don't necessarily need to have your clients do a hip thrust motion. But now in level 2, that's really the big additional load, stimulus on the lower abs, is actually truly doing that hip thrust motion. What you may need to do is spot your client to get them into this exercise and actually get them to do a hip thrust motion. So to do that, you can grab their ankles and then tell your client what you want them to do. So I want you to go ahead and really recruit these lower abdominals, try to go into a posterior pelvic tilt action, and I'm going to assist you with that motion. Good, awesome, and come back down nice and controlled, and then let's open the thighs best you can. Let's come back together, and then let's go ahead and reach the pelvis up again. Good. And so you'll work with them and spot them. Try to get them to do the action. Don't make it so that they're spotting you, lifting their legs. Try to make it the best you can that you're the one spotting, kind of just giving them that extra 10, 20, 30 pounds, whatever's needed to get their hips up off the floor in this motion. And it's very important to know that you don't need your client to come like way up here where they're 4, 5, 6 inches off the floor with their pelvis. You're just looking to get at least a 2 to 3 inch lift of the pelvis coming up off the floor.